from Storehouse Media Group. Sherry, how are you? And I know this just feels like really an amazing thing to finally launch the podcast when I think we've batched about 10 or 12 or 14, counting all the even short interviews as well, right, Sherry?
It's been a few, but yeah, I'm excited. I'm excited to get these people shows up there. They've been incredible guests and let other people meet them.
That's the fun thing. Yeah. Let other people meet them and just have that excitement and everything about a podcast launch. And you're not new to podcasting. You already were doing a podcast before you started Storehouses, right?
I started a podcast. My gosh, I'm thinking 13, 14 years ago and did it for a bit every week live. And so I had a little hiatus and done podcast interviews, here and there. And then it came up to have one. And I started one with Doug Haas of Haas Entertainment. And we've been going at it for about a year and a half, him and I, on entertainment. And then you, and it's entertainment. We're doing that. So, I love it. I love the energy. I love getting on here. I love talking to people. I love hearing more about what they do, a little more of the background, because I'm a backstory kind of girl. So I love sharing that because, people know where they came from. And I think sometimes knowing that gives people inspiration, like, well, if they can do what they're doing, I can too. So it's just a win-win for everyone.
It's a definite win-win. It's an exciting win-win in
It
a hundred
is.
different ways. But then, so this experience a little different because now you're getting to finally highlight all the amazing authors or authors soon writing books, especially ones that came from Storehouse, right? To get to hear their feedback. That's one thing you're going to see from this podcast is you're going to hear such great testimonials for how Sherry has taken people through that writing process, right?
Well, yeah, yeah. I mean, they say that the best kind of reviews you can get or compliments you can get are from those you've worked with and what they really think of you. So it's been, really nice listening to their testimonies and, live one-on-one, and I've enjoyed them. I've enjoyed working with them. I enjoyed working with them. Some are in progress. But they're all different and they all come with their own writer's voice, their own unique story, their own unique mission. And that's one thing to put out there to people is that you do have a story and it's just as unique as your fingerprints. And so don't ever discount your story because nobody on this planet has walked through what you walked through in your shoes at the moment that you walked through it.
You hit the nail on the head. They haven't.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
everyone has that story. And what's great about the podcast is we're not just going to look at authors. We've had celebrities on,
right.
influential different writers and books. We're releasing a few starting and be ready. Guys, definitely got to go to Apple Podcasts, Spotify to check out the podcast. That will be in the show notes from this launch party, but write an Apple podcast review. That's going to be great for people to more and more, as Sherry sees that specifically for YouTube or YouTube shorts, people are finding more and more about Storehouse in another way about how you as the brand of this, the leader of this great publishing company. And that's what you're going to learn from these podcasts is the great stories, but then amazing people. So people got to subscribe for sure.
They do. They do. And and again, people are inspiration. My whole mission, really, my heart's desire for so many years was to give people a voice. And so many times people have something to say, but there's no platform to say it. So that's what I try to do. Like, hey, let's get you on a podcast, let other people hear what's going on, because you just don't know who you're going to resonate with out there. And they could be your next book buyer, your next follower, your next friend on Facebook, however you want it, connection on LinkedIn, but you just never know what buttons you're going to push with somebody.
Okay. Let's jump like talking about getting to interview celebrities. That's the thing, the Storehouse Media Group podcast that people don't understand is you got the opportunity to interview a lot of interesting celebrities.
Oh
What was
goodness.
it like, especially getting to interview some of them?
That it was great. You know, I don't think there's a celebrity that I have interviewed who was like, oh my gosh, they were very personable. It was like you and me talking. You know, they were just human. They were fun. They were fun. You know, we talked with Barry Bostwick yesterday, and like, what a fun guy. And you know, we could go on and name some of the people that we've talked with, but I enjoyed
That's
it.
what people just got to go to the Storehouse
That's
Media
right.
Group
That's
podcast and
right.
then they can see all those stories. But that's the amazing thing. And you never know the stories of connections of getting to interview people that you know the right answer, the question, because they've written a book. Because everyone, that's a lot of people just go on media because they wrote a book and the stories come out amazing for sure. Now, I think one thing we promise people today, once we go through a little bit more in the podcast, is some writing tips. We're going to go and find out if you are interested in writing a book, because that's part of this live stream today. I know people are checking out live stream all over social media, but if they went back on YouTube, checked out the Storehouse Media Group podcast launch party, we're going to give a bit of nuggets. But what do you think is the most intriguing part of doing a podcast?
I think the most intriguing part is putting a face, not just a face, because we can see a picture, but a personality and a voice with a name. And people are actually able to see them and hear them and and watch their facial expressions and the inflection and the tones in the voice. And it's like they get to know them. You know, they feel like they know them better. And my point has always been, you want people to get to know you so they can like you, and then they can trust you. It's that no like trust factor. And then now, you've got a relationship now. And so that's what I feel is a very strong part for a podcast.
Totally strong, no
Yeah.
doubt. And what I see that's intriguing about interviewing you, I mean, co-hosting with you, is you really come up with some really thought-provoking questions when it comes to a story, because
Yeah.
that's what you do as a ghostwriter. So we're going to jump into some of the specific tips. Make sure everyone goes ahead and subscribes, writes an Apple podcast review for Storehouse Media Group. We're going to have all those different things in the show notes, especially on YouTube, all those different places. It's a celebration. What's the hardest part of doing a podcast?
I think the hardest part is I don't really know because I just love getting on and talking to people. So it's like, I love to prepare. I love to read about them before I get on there. So maybe the hardest part is I've been having construction going on and making sure it's not too loud in the background.
But see, the
But
thing is, Zoom takes that background out, so you'll have to understand that.
there you go. There you
Yeah,
go.
so especially if there's a real loud pitch or certain things, unless they're very close to the mic, it's not going to show up. That's a good thing about Zoom versus other platforms. Or if you, I remember the days of me recording in my studio in my finished basement back in the day. The biggest thing was it could pick up every noise upstairs. Well, I don't
Oh,
have to worry about that anymore,
uh-oh.
thanks to technology. And yeah, I remember those days where I had the mixer and I go to turn it down and turn it up, turn it down. So
That's
turn it
that's
up and
crazy.
I time it and turn it down. But that's the one thing about a mixer. It does make it an easier situation back in the day because you just have it on your hand and say, not moving it. Okay, that's it. Or as we go right here to the mute button. That's all you need to do is quick to the mute. Next question. And you got to be really understanding that. I think, why didn't you do a podcast for your publishing company before meeting me?
Well, it wasn't for lack of desire. I was building up. I was doing speaking, and the COVID hit, and I kind of like the idea of like being in one place and not having to travel, but still reaching the audience and even a larger audience. And teaching people. My whole thing is to teach people about writing a book and also hitting upon some social issues from my background. And so when the opportunity, it's like timing. you can push, sometimes you can push and push and push a square peg, and sometimes you're just pushing it through a round hole and you can fight and fight. But then all of a sudden, the right opportunity at the right time happens, and you're like, okay, I'm in. And so I
And the
think
thing that,
about
and I'm
that.
going to ask you how I make it easier. How Media Giant Productions and Neil the Media Giant Haley make it easier to do a podcast than, let's say, if you were going to try to do it on your own.
Well, you just made it like really just sit back and enjoy. And you do everything. I mean, you have it set up, you have the platform, you do the social media, you do all that, and you just make it easy to where actually that's what I got to do, just got to show up.
Yeah.
And for somebody like me who's super busy, that's a breath of fresh air. I could put on a podcast. I've done shows, I've taught other people how to do it, but it's a lot of work if you don't, especially when you don't know what you're doing, or you're a busy person. So it would have been difficult for me to do it, having to take care of all the bits and pieces of doing a podcast. But when you're just required to show up, wow, it's a win-win, right?
Yeah. And part of the Storehouse Media Group podcast, you're going to get lots of great tips as I promised you in today's live, we are going to nail the hardest questions when we're talking about how to write a book, to publish a book, all the different things we're going to get today. So if you missed it, make sure you go back, like, share, all that. Now let's jump really quickly to why a podcast is a gold mine in a way that you can create all the content from there. Think about specifically enough the reels and shorts that are created on a regular basis from our individual interviews that, shines on a specific tip you give and stuff, right?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, talking about repurposing content. Wow, what you can do with a podcast. The reels, the shorts, you can, the transcriptions, a book, a course. I mean, we could go on and on and on of all the different avenues you can do, taking out little gold nuggets and sound bites. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's like, wow.
And it's because of AI and all these different things. It's really, really important. And I think that the way we're able to work together is there is some preparation, but ultimately we throw some stuff out there and go. And
Yes,
that's important because if it's not a conversation, and this is
that's
for
right.
any speaker that wants to be a speaker, you should have a podcast. Plain and
That's right.
simple. Even though I taught for X amount of years, it was me doing so many shows that you could say, Sherry could tell me right now, okay, fly out here, Neil, and go do a speech on this topic. I don't need to prepare. I can go out and do it. I
Yeah,
just
yeah,
because that's the ability. Okay, I need you to talk about this subject today, 15 minutes down. Let's go. And
that's right.
that is what you learn the amount of time you speak on a microphone.
Yes.
And do you feel you have improved as a speaker, getting the chance to, or I guess, question and be able to cover more since you've been doing so many of these in the last like 4 or 5 months?
I think anytime you do something repetitively, there's always room for improvement, always. So I would say yes, I have. It's just like I said, just show up and go, and nothing with us is scripted. It just happens. I mean, most of the time I don't even know what we're talking about. So doing that and helping people get word out is just again, on an unscripted basis.
Exciting. Great.
It is. It's
Awesome.
exciting. It's
Totally.
natural. It's natural to do it. And like you said, it's a conversation. It's not a speech and not a presentation. We're
Right.
having a conversation.
And the
Yeah.
biggest thing that it's the question that leads to the hook, and the hook is anything in a specific topic that's going to hook people to listen to the reel or the short. And what my team does here at Media Giant Productions is we look at the top hashtags that can rank, especially for YouTube, and be able to get them out to further places. I was working with my team. I said, guess what? You got to change them up every time. Look at which ones are the hottest hashtags, and they really do well on YouTube. I don't know about other platforms as much, but YouTube is probably where it's called you could have 2 subscribers and get thousands of views where you would never if you uploaded a video long form without subs. And that's how you build your subs and you build your brand. All right. So that's it for talking about the podcast, Apple Podcast, but this is the bonus 15 minutes. here we go. If you are wanting to write a book and you missed this live stream, you missed out. So let's go with the process. I'll take it as how to write a book from A to Z. And this is going to be our 14-minute talk. Okay, you got an idea for a book, and maybe we could do this as a workshop. I'm going to write a book on AI for podcasters. Okay. This is going to be just a kind of and you're going to take it and I'm going to present this idea to you. So I have an idea that I can create a book called AI for podcasters, how podcasters can use AI to create anything they want when they want through podcasting. What do you think of that book idea?
I think it's a great idea. I think that I think AI is still very new. People hear it, and I think some people embrace it, and some people are intimidated by it, or some people don't like it at all. It's just too much interference and taking over. So I think learning about it, good, bad, or indifferent, is good. And maybe it's for them, maybe it's not, but they'll learn whether it's for them if they read the book.
Absolutely. Okay. So that's the idea. What are your recommendations to get started the book? Should I just go? How should I write?
Well,
I'm stuck. Go ahead.
Well, I would say if you're going to write a book, like something like that, basically it's a topic book. It's not a memoir. Uh, I would make a list of everything I want to talk about, and then highlight what are the major points. And then, you start big, you do the overall picture, and then you start going down. You start digging deep, wide, and then deep.
How many book pages should it be?
I would say something like that. I would make it short, and I would probably, publishing standards are about 250 words per page. That can vary, of course, because there's variables there, but I shoot for maybe 25,000 words, make it about 100 pages,
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So I'm liking this so far. So this is a workshop where I'm presenting a book idea to Sherry from Storehouse Media Group. All right. So once we go ahead and start the writing process, how do you know if you're like on the right track per chapter, especially of a how-to book or a book that's going to give such powerful information? What would you recommend in like each chapter?
It's hard to be objective about our own writing, and it's hard to decide. And I see this with other authors, what should stay and what shouldn't stay. I think getting a trusted, objective perspective, somebody who you can help work with them. And I know people are busy, but you can also say, listen, in the acknowledgement section, I want to mention you that you helped me with this book. And it costs you nothing as the author, but it will mean everything in the world to them. And plus it gets their name out there if they're trying to promote what they're doing. So, have somebody who you trust and say, hey, can you read this and see if you think I'm on track? Do I need something? Do I not? Is it the dots connecting? And that's what I would say is go to a person and ask them, because that's going to be who's going to read your book, is person.
Yeah. That makes complete sense. All right. So we're on the definite right track. And that's when you go to Sherry. All right. So Sherry, someone presents a manuscript and define what a manuscript is, first of all.
Well, manuscript is somebody's written a book and it's not been published. So, it's just, you go on the computer, it used to be pages, people had write on pages, but now everybody writes on the computer. And you have to, in case you are a writer by hand, there are people out there, somehow get that converted to digital, because if you're going to get published, if you're going to get edited, that's how it's going to be done. So a manuscript is something that's in the process, that's not yet published. And basically when we work with books, we call those unpublished books manuscripts.
Okay. So once you go ahead and review the manuscript, that's one of the services you provide. So we're kind of taking the books A to Z. This might be an idea of continuing the podcast as I'm just going through the storyline, saying we're going to give some nuggets. This is definitely for the first writer. Now you go ahead and present that manuscript to you to potentially write for a book. You'll first of all, do you review manuscripts or does it, what are
We
the next
do.
thing? Yeah, okay.
We do. If somebody wants us to review a manuscript, it's a service we offer. If they're wanting editing, uh, and that's it, if they want editing, then we review a manuscript at that time. And we give them feedback. We give them diagnosis, suggestions. We always give options. It's nothing worse than somebody saying, we suggest this, and here are some ways you can do it. And I was telling somebody the other day, and I've been in this industry almost 20 years, and I've been doing this, and my team and I have together over 500 books, I would say at this point. And so we kind of know what, that whole navigation and that whole journey. And we're able to do things, we're not cookie cutter. So, if you've got to have editing and you maybe don't need this edit, but you need more than this edit, we combine edits, we do more of a boutique services where we customize. Even our editing packages will customize for you. Not one book is the same. Your book is going to be different from the one that came before you, the one after you, and you're going to need different things. And we're not going to give you what you don't need. We're going to give you from our review what we believe will make your book better. Your success is our success.
What if your book's a train wreck, your manuscript? Then you're
It's
going to have to
okay.
hire you for something else, right?
I've had train wrecks before, and we can go
What do you
in.
define a train wreck? What kinds of stuff happens when you
Oh, I can give you some of the train wrecks I've had, but I won't. But the train wrecks are totally they don't make sense. There's no connection. There's like one paragraph, the whole book. And I tell you what's one of the train wrecks that can be avoided. Sometimes we'll get a manuscript, and you know clearly the author's not reviewed it. They've just put it on paper and handed it over and want somebody to, do the one, and bada boom, you've got a great book. My suggestion is to avoid a train wreck as much as possible. Go through your book. I will do that. And I will write a book. I'm a professional writer. I'm an author. That's what I do for a living. And I'll write something, and then maybe 3 months later, I'll pick it up and I'm like, what? What did I mean here? Where did this come from? You know it in your head as you're writing it, but your reader may not. So I will go back in my stuff and I'm like, I don't even know what I meant here. And so that's why you need to go through your manuscript before handing it off to someone. And that way, that cuts time and also cuts money for what you have to spend to have something edited.
All right. Now, you also like help in the either a ghostwriting phase or help you write the book. So what if I just said AI for podcasters, I send you a train wreck. It looks terrible. You're like, what the heck is this, Neil? It's all over the place. I can't deal with this. And I said, well, I don't have the time to do this stuff you want. It just gave me advice to do. Then you hire you to do the ghostwriting where you kind of work hand in hand. So define that.
Well, if say, that's happened, and it has happened. And people, they basically give the concept. And as long as you're given the concept, we can go to work and we can do research, we can piece things together for you. And we can construct a book from the concepts. Having the concepts and what you're wanting to say and what you're saying helps us because we know what you want to write about. If you just say, I want to write about AI for business, that's very vague and that could cover a lot of things. But if you
That's
get
why
more
we chose
specific,
podcasting. Yeah.
right,
Yeah.
for podcasting, and then we start looking at it, and we're going to ask you questions along the way. Like there will be a lot of getting to know you and where your mind's at on this topic, and why is it this way, and what are you hoping to do with it. How do you want readers to apply it? So we have a formula that if it's something like a business book, we have this formula that we put together, and we're going to put all the pieces together, and then we'll come back to you and ask you questions, and then we'll just fill in the rest and write it. You have to approve everything though, and then your name gets put on it. So you really want to do your due diligence
Yeah.
and
No,
make sure
no,
that
no.
you want to make sure that the person, I've heard horror stories, who's going to be writing your book, they're a good writer. You want them to
Right.
be a
But
good
it's not you
writer.
just give them an idea and they write it all together. There's collaboration and ghostwriting, right?
There has to be collaboration because you want to make sure that they're quality, because your name is going to be on the cover of that book forever and forever and ever. Amen. So make sure you get somebody who has a good reputation of writing, and you are going to get what you pay for. There are people out there who will write you a book for dirt cheap.
And now you have
Dirt
to be wired. They can write you a book for dirt cheap through AI, and you don't know if they even did any work at all. They put a little
Yeah,
work in and they charge you X, thinking they just made $750 or $1,000 in an hour. So that's really
yeah,
a shame. So you have to really be your due
yeah, and
diligence.
yeah, and I would caution people. I've gotten books that have been they've used AI to correct or edit, and it totally lost. Not only did it lose its meaning, but it contorted some
No
of the
doubt.
messages
And
it said,
then that's where you have to have a writer and to write
and an
blogs or whatever, but
editor.
I wouldn't, and an editor. So all those different things, but
Right,
you have to put all those things together. So
right.
then last, okay, I've written the book. It's ready to go. I hired the ghostwriter. We went through the process. A great cover, right? The book cover is going to be huge.
Yes, it's going to be huge because they say you can't judge a book by its cover. Oh, you
Oh,
can,
yes, yeah.
and they will.
And so
Yeah,
when they see the cover, they could just pass right through and say, forget it, even if it's a great idea.
that's
It
right.
depends on the competition too, right? If you pick a genre area that there's no one in it, maybe you won't have to worry as much about the cover. But if you're in a huge genre where they're cranking out 10,000 books in that genre every month, you better have something that looks interesting.
You do. You need something that's eye-catching, not just eye-catching, but something that really gives the tone of the book. If it's business, if it's AI, I can think of a lot of different ideas in my head. If it's a memoir and it's something that happened that was, really hard, then it's going to be more of an ominous. If it's something like a fun book, you're gonna have a fun cover. So you want to make sure that the tone of the cover matches the inside of the book. We work with covers. We're an award-winning publishing company, and I think one reason is because we have such good covers, and we're very customized on our cover. But that's one thing we want to do is make sure that even the font is reflective of what you're going to read on the inside of those between those cover.
All right,
Yeah.
fabulous. All right. So after the cover, we go to the other, but I think that was a great overview to see what Sherry knows how to do when it comes to Storehouse Media Group. When you're going to get to meet with the CEO has an unbelievable team of people at Storehouse Media Group, and they could take your idea all the way to a movie. So go to
That's right.
storehousemediagroup.com today and schedule
And
a call
market
with
it.
Sherry. Make sure you give an Apple podcast review, Spotify review, whatever. Share it with people because if you want to really know the publishing industry, you need to go to Storehouse Media Group. Appreciate it, Sherry.
Thanks, Neil.
All right, that was the bet. That was an amazing live stream of the Storehouse Media Group.